and seasonal features, serving customers for 64 years. Details at specsonline.com.
Trouble spot on the Hardy Toll Road. New accident northbound cross timbers in a right lane. Also, Gulf Freeway's HOV Griggs. It's an accident with a Metro bus. You've been stuck there for some time. Scattered showers right now in our area. 79 for the high, 70% chance you're going to see some as well the rest of the day. 69 for the low, 81 for the next couple of days. 30 to 40% chance of rain for the weekend, but we need it, right? 72 right now. HoustonPublicMedia.org is the website. Click on donate if you haven't already. We appreciate that. KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston, 901.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. Vice President J.D. Vance is traveling to Pakistan ahead of high-level talks aimed at ending the war in Iran. Boarding Air Force Two this morning, Vance said he's cautiously optimistic about the upcoming negotiations.
If they're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive. So we're going to try to have a positive negotiation. The president has gave us some pretty clear guidelines, and we're going to see.
Delegations from Washington and Tehran are set to meet in Islamabad on Saturday, with pressure mounting for a breakthrough. There's been confusion over whether the ceasefire covers Lebanon, where the militant group Hezbollah is based. Iran says it does, while Israel says it does not. Israel launched a fresh round of airstrikes across southern Lebanon on Thursday, targeting Iranian-backed Hezbollah fighters. NPR's Dee Parvez reports Tehran is outlining demands to its Middle East neighbors.
In a message released on Iranian state media, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Moshtaba Khamenei addressed Gulf Arab states, promising them a gesture of goodwill in exchange for distancing themselves from, quote, the arrogant powers who never miss an opportunity to humiliate and exploit you. The presence of U.S. military bases in countries like Qatar and Bahrain has made them targets for Iran in this war. And Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister Saeed Khatibzadeh told Al Jazeera English that Iran will permit some ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, but only in coordination with Iranian forces. Permanent control of the strait is among Iran's key demands in its negotiations with the U.S. Any restriction in the strait will prove highly problematic to oil-rich Gulf Arab nations who rely on free access to the passage for their economies. Dee Parvez, NPR News, Vaughan, Turkey.
Stocks on Wall Street opened mixed this morning as the Labor Department reported the highest inflation rate in almost 2 years. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped by about 185 points in early trading.
A wartime spike in energy prices triggered a big jump in the cost of living last month. Consumer prices in March were up 3.3% from a year ago. That's the largest annual increase in 22 months. Prices jumped almost 1% during the month after the U.S. launched its war with Iran. Higher gasoline prices accounted for the lion's share of that increase. AAA says the average price of gas today is $4.15 a gallon. It was just under $3 a gallon in late February when the war began. The price of airline tickets and restaurant meals was also up in March, while the price of groceries was down. Stripping out volatile food and energy prices, so-called core inflation was 2.6%. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Stocks continue to trade mixed on Wall Street at this hour. The Dow was down 145 points. The Nasdaq Composite trading higher, up 89. The S&P 500 up 3 points. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Jarl and Pamela Mohn, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts. And the Public Welfare Foundation, committed to advancing transformative youth and criminal justice reforms.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Matt Harab. A teacher at Splendora High School north of Houston is in court this morning after conducting what authorities are calling a hoax emergency yesterday on campus. Police say that 53-year-old Nicole Truelove activated a panic button inside of the school, triggering a campus-wide lockdown. Officials initially were led to believe that a student attacked her, but that was later determined to be false. The school was put into a secure hold position, meaning students had to remain in class. No students were injured, and there was never any real threat to the public. Truelove is facing felony charges. Houston ISD Board of Managers greenlit a reduction of force last night. Now, HISD administrators can cut or reassign hundreds of positions. It may help the district manage their ongoing budget concerns. The move comes as HISD continues to recruit for a variety of positions, though. Elected trustee Maria Benzone criticized the district's conflicting moves.
If you RIF and recruit at the same time, the problem was never about the budget.
HISD officials did not say how many positions would ultimately be cut. And after months in an ICE detention center, a Houston ISD high school senior has officially been deported. Our Bianca Seward says his detention sparked outcry in the community after he was first detained during a routine immigration appointment back in December.
Mauro Enriquez was flown to the capital of Honduras Wednesday, a country he hasn't lived in since he was 9 years old. Representative Sylvia Garcia visited the 18-year-old in detention just weeks ago. She called the deportation tragic.
This is a young man, a senior in high school, a captain of a soccer team, never committed a crime before, completely clean record. He should be in school. He should be getting ready to graduate with his teammates, with his classmates, and instead he's been deported to Honduras.
Houston ISD and ICE officials have not yet responded to questions about the deportation. I'm Bianca Seward, News 88.7.
Currently 72 degrees here on the UH campus, and we are set up for a high of 79 today. Good chance of rain as well. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Michael Haggerty, filling in today for Craig Cohen. Thanks for joining us on News 88.7 and on Houston Public Media's YouTube channel. Coming up this hour, we break down the good, the bad, and the ugly of the week, and we learn about Brazilian culture in the city. But first, we begin with a reminder of the importance your financial support means during our spring fundraising drive here, campaign. There's a reason you tune into the station. Part of that is probably because the consistency of what we do and what we bring every single day and the news and conversations that you hear. And there's a lot of work we contribute behind it, paying attention to what's going on in the community. And a lot of the conversations we have every hour that we're going to have this hour will be about that. Conversations about things happening here in our community, following the details, making sure the information is correct, following and checking facts. And we, know that you rely on this service to stay informed. That consistency, though, depends on your consistent support of Houston Public Media by making a contribution at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or by calling us at 888-909-0887. I'm Michael Haggerty here this morning with one of our producers, Brenda Valdivia. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm Brenda Valdivia, and I had so much fun pitching with Jack Williams. I decided to stick around for Houston Matters because what you hear on Houston Public Media is built on daily work. How many conversations have we had each and every day with Houston Matters about what's happening in our community and the surrounding areas? When we talk about Houston, we don't just mean within 610 Loop or Beltway 8. We mean everything from Galveston all the way to Humble and Fort Bend and beyond. We follow the stories that matter, and we take the time to get it right so you can trust what you hear. And we respect that you understand the value of that. Just in the last hour, we had a supporter, Emily, who told us she listens every day to keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Emily. I want to make sure we also share this other message that Joe shared. I'm 92 years old, and I have been donating for more than 50 years. Awesome. I love listening to the news. That's so sweet. That's so great. I've been listening to Houston Public Media ever since I was a kid. I've always been fascinated by local news, and I want you to take a look around if you have kids at home who are listening to this station with you. They hear what you hear. They learn what you learn, and you can be a part of the story that brings public media to them in the future as well. So give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
You tuned in to Houston Public Media this morning, and that means this station matters to you because it's your station, your news, your weather updates, your conversations. Thank you to Glenn, Victoria, David, John, and Felicia for your donations. This is your station. Now make it yours with a contribution at HoustonPublicMedia.org or 888-909-0887.
You know, we're going to have a conversation, or rather, you're going to have a conversation about Artemis II. They're touching down tonight, and we're all really excited about that. And listener support is how you can hear that news as well. You help us decide what stays on air. If you want to keep having a voice in this station, give now at HoustonPublicMedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
You tune in to Houston Matters because this program helps you make sense of the world and have broader conversations about what's happening in our community. We're happy to bring that to you, but we can only do that with your financial support. Again, HoustonPublicMedia.org or 888-909-0887. We'll continue to check in with Brenda throughout the hour. Brenda, thank you.
Thank you.
NASA's 4 Artemis II astronauts are spending their last day in space today, packing up the Orion spacecraft and preparing to return to Earth with a splashdown off the coast of San Diego this evening. Here with the latest is Houston Public Media's space reporter, Michael Adkison. Good morning, Michael.
Hey, Michael. Good morning.
Well, you've not officially become our space reporter, but basically, with the amount of time you've spent covering this for us, spending a lot of time at JSC throughout the last 10 days, and we expect to have these astronauts back on Earth tonight. How would you sum up the mood at JSC and for NASA overall as this mission nears its end?
Yeah, so re-entry is expected for this evening, probably around 7 o'clock Central Time, and the mood is optimistic. You know, what we heard NASA officials say yesterday was that it's going to be impossible to entirely rid yourself of what they call irrational concerns, but that as far as rational concerns, they say that there are none. You know, there's questions of the heat shield and what safety is going to look like, but NASA officials say there's really nothing to be concerned at this point, that they are pretty confident that this reentry process is going to happen. It's going to happen successfully, and that these astronauts are going to get home safely. But, you know, this is probably the most dangerous part of the mission, and so there's always going to be a level of concern that something could go wrong when we watch something like this happen.
Yeah, reentry is an intense part of this mission. NASA described the flight, the reentry, rather, as 13 minutes of things that have to go right. Can you explain what the reentry sequence looks like and what are the most critical moments between now and when they're safe back in on dry land?
Yeah, let me pull up my timeline here real quick. So there's several things, as you mentioned, that need to happen correctly. So about 45 minutes before they actually re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, the crew module, which is where the astronauts have been living and are going to re-enter the Earth, that crew module separates from the service module. That's been what's moving them around in space while they've just had the spacecraft in, space. So they're going to separate from that. That crew module is just going to be, or the service module rather, is just going to be lost in the Earth's atmosphere. It's going to burn up. They're not expecting that to survive. The crew module, however, is built to withstand immense heat and pressure that's going to come from re-entering the Earth's atmosphere. So once they do that separation, right at about 6:53, I know this is really precise, 6:53 p.m. Central Time, Orion spacecraft is going to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. Just a few seconds after that, we're going to go into communications blackout. There's going to be so much plasma built up around the spacecraft that mission control here in Houston is not going to be able to communicate with those astronauts aboard the Orion spacecraft. So that's going to happen for about roughly 6 minutes. And of course, everyone's going to be holding their breath and making sure that everything goes right. But then 6 minutes later, we should regain communications, and then NASA's, hopefully going to have a visual shortly thereafter of where the Orion spacecraft is. And then we're expecting 7:07 p.m. splashdown off the coast of San Diego. So what was mentioned yesterday by lead flight director Jeff Radigan was that several things have to go right. And really, they have to go right. You have to set up for success. You can't make these real-time decisions because we're talking about 13 minutes here. And, if something goes wrong, it's going to go wrong very quickly. So really what NASA can do is set up for success and make sure that they check all their boxes. Yes, we're on the right trajectory. Yes, we're protected as much as possible with the heat shield and the thermal protection system, but all that's going to happen preemptively. And again, hoping that success means those 13 minutes, everything is met and expected.
If everything goes well, the next 24 hours, what's next for the astronauts the next days, weeks?
So we know that in the coming days they're gonna leave California. They're gonna come back home here to Houston. It could happen as soon as tomorrow. There's not a set timeline in place. Obviously, if something is when the crew is recovered, should one of them need to go to the hospital, they're having nausea, they're having problems, anything like that. Obviously, that could put a wrench in plans. But they could return to Houston as soon as tomorrow. They're gonna obviously spend some time catching up with family and debriefs about the mission, but they are expected to go on something of a tour across the country to talk about their mission and what it meant for America and what it means for the future of space exploration. And then of course they're going to do several debriefs. They're going to talk a little bit about the science with NASA. They're going to talk about what can be improved for Artemis 3 and Artemis 4 eventually with this mission. So it's equal parts science and discovery and explaining that science and touting the achievements of NASA and touting the achievements of the United States and the Canadian Space Agency going on a mission like this.
Michael Adkison's been following this story of the Artemis II mission and will continue to do so throughout the day. And we appreciate all the time you've spent on this story and making time for us these last few days.
Thanks, Michael.
Just a few hours down the Texas coast from here in Houston, Corpus Christi's been teetering on the edge of running out of water. And its search for solutions may be offloading that crisis onto some of its neighbors. Dylan Baddour has been covering this unfolding disaster for Inside Climate News, and he's back with us this morning with some updates. Dylan, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, you've been reporting on the city's issues, which are driven by a combination of things, a 5-year drought, high industrial water demand, some failed infrastructure planning, including a collapsed desalination project. But your latest reporting took you out to Jim Wells County, which is just west of Nueces County, where Corpus Christi is the county seat. Why did you go out there, and how are they being affected by the crisis next door?
Well, they are being affected by drawdowns of groundwater because folks out there in rural Jim Wells County depend on the aquifers for their small cities and for small landowners. But Corpus Christi has recently begun extremely large-scale pumping of those aquifers in emergency projects to sort of extend this timeline to disaster. So folks that I talked with out there, when Corpus Christi turned its pumps on, they saw their water levels fall 15 feet over a matter of days. They come back up, by the way. Groundwater works, but I think all indications are that folks out there are going to be running out of water. They'll kind of first in line to hit that point.
So this has created a rush of sorts from some of these small towns and communities around Corpus Christi trying to pump water to get ahead of things, to prevent their own crisis, right? What are they doing?
Yeah, indeed. Everybody's trying to drill into the groundwater. And actually, I think it goes a lot farther than the communities I included in my story. I've heard going all the way up to Goliad, going halfway up the coast, going all the way up towards Lake Texana. Cities and towns are drilling additional wells right now because it's basically all that they can think of to do. As shortage gets closer and closer, it's going to become more and more expensive to acquire that water and to drill those wells. So it's really the only option on the table right now, and it's not going to be sustainable for everybody in the long term.
Part of this process is that Governor Abbott has waived normal permitting processes to allow Corpus Christi to move faster on its emergency well fields. What kinds of protections might be lost if those processes are expedited or even skipped, and what risks does that create for some of those smaller communities downstream?
Well, on the topic of the well fields and permitting, it's a question of salinity. Really, Abbott expedited these permits that allows Corpus Christi to pump water into the Nueces River, pump groundwater. And it was salinity that was really limiting how much they could pump previously, because the rules say you can't create this, above standard salinity in the Nueces River. However, these wells that they're getting online are fairly salty water because of where it comes from, because of the proximity to the ocean, things like that. So Corpus Christi right now is depending on blending this well water with the Nueces River water and with water coming through the pipeline to keep it at an acceptably low level of salinity. But what they are asking on Abbott to do is to continue to lower those standards on salinity so they can move forward with all urgency here. However, the problem is that eventually people can't drink salty water, and a conventional municipal water treatment plant does not remove salts. So there's only so far you can bend the rules and stretch these permits before you get to a point where it doesn't really serve people anymore.
The city of Alice built a reverse osmosis facility years ago. Well, before we got to this particular critical point, can you talk just briefly a bit about what they've done and how these smaller towns are trying to adapt other than rushing to drill their own wells?
Sure. So Alice has a brackish groundwater desalination plant, which is basically a half-power desalination plant, not quite seawater desalination. And as I mentioned, the groundwater in these parts is salty, so that's the kind of facility that you need to make that usable. While I was reporting, all sorts of communities there told me, well, look at Alice. They installed a brackish groundwater desal plant, so that's what we all can do. So I went to talk with Alice, and turns out preparations for this project started around 2011 and really kicked off around 2018. So it took them many years to get to the point where they booted this thing up last year, and it makes it hard to imagine as a really quick solution for other towns. However, that said, Alice is also drilling an emergency freshwater well, and that's because if Lake Corpus Christi runs out, the region's water source, it would make their conventional water treatment plant go dry, seize up, and break. And they don't want that to happen, so they're drilling an emergency water well to keep their treatment plant wet, even in the case where they have to transition over to this desalinated groundwater.
Dylan Baddour is a reporter for Inside Climate News. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Just ahead, we break down the good, the bad, and the ugly of the week's news. Stay with us as Houston Matters continues here on News 88.7 and YouTube.
You count on Houston Public Media. That's why you're here right now. Take the next step and become a new member today. Every gift makes a difference. And with a gift of $5 a month or more, you'll receive PBS Passport, a member benefit that lets you stream more of the shows you love anytime. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. Join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Media comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. Baylor's work centers on advancing health and medicine through research, education, and patient care.
Support comes from Metro. World Cup planning includes transit improvements intended to serve Houston after the final match. Metro provides bus, rail, and paratransit service and continues mobility enhancements across the region. More at ridemetro.org/Metro Now.
This is Houston Matters. I'm Michael Haggerty, in for Craig Cohen. There's a reason you tune into this station and Houston Matters. You come here for news and conversations about what's happening in our community. You know that what you're getting is going to be solid reporting that stays focused on Houston. Information that's been checked before it reaches you. That doesn't happen by accident, though. It takes the support of people like you in our community to keep this show and this station going strong. That's why we're here in our spring fundraising campaign. I'm Michael Haggerty, along with Brenda Valdivia. The number to call is 888-909-0887 or visit houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hi, yes, I'm Brenda Valdivia, and you cannot keep me away. I've been here since 6 a.m. talking with Jack Williams, and now you, Michael, because I've heard that the latest Artemis mission here on Houston Matters, and also we discussed the situation going on in Corpus Christi and their water situation. We cover the issues that matter to you. And we'll have live coverage of this re-entry this evening for the Artemis II mission. This is news you can't live without. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to Patty, Bob, Victoria, and William, because they just gave. I'm telling you who's giving, because I want to show you the people are willing to join this fight, and you are not alone. I'm also going to throw down my gauntlet. I would love to entice you to join our studio society that comes with benefits as far as PBS PBS Passport to station tours and other special opportunities, combos and cocktails, and more. Why? Because we want to show you the difference that you're capable of making. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887 to become that member.
Your support has a real impact. Every gift makes a difference and impacts what we do here. This station doesn't just happen in the background. There are real people like Brenda, who've been here since like 5-something a.m., our newscasters, Matt Harab, and everybody else gathering the news, producing the news, Jared here running the controls, following the stories that make your life and help you understand our community so that you don't have to go digging to find answers yourself. But it only continues, Brenda, with ongoing support.
Yes, absolutely. Even small gifts matter. Every listener who gives has made this possible. If this station is part of your day, take a moment to give right now. We had somebody who donate who is 92 years old. She's been donating for over 50 years. So if you've been listening to us for a while, join her and give at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
There are so many communities that we cover that can hear our station. And, of course, anyone can tune in around the world with the internet. Fort Bend County is one of those communities, and it's one of the fastest growing places in our region. That's why Houston Public Media has a reporter dedicated to Fort Bend. Melissa Anahe covers that community for you. She's reporting on topics like racial profiling and traffic stops, telling the stories of people and culture across the county. All of this is so that you can understand what's going on where you live. And that kind of reporting, real people on the ground telling these stories, only happens with your money. Help Melissa and all of our other reporters in the newsroom serve you and our community with the contribution at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or 888-909-0887.
Yes, one of the most important jobs in journalism is holding people accountable. And that's exactly what Houston Public Media Newsroom does for you. I was just thinking about Bianca Seward. She's now part of our Houston Matters segment where we focus on education in Houston and beyond. We talk about everything from HISD and local independent school districts to Texas school vouchers, changes that are happening. And we decided to create this segment just to address those. And Bianca is one of the people that helps make this happen. Our reporters dig into public records. They request documents. They follow details to make sure that the truth comes to life, because the decisions that are made in the city affect you, your family, and your community. And you deserve clear and honest information about what's happening where you live. And that kind of reporting only happens because of listeners like you to support it. So again, go ahead and pick up that gauntlet that I threw down and join our studio society by reaching out to houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call us at 888-909-0887.
We'll check in more with Brenda throughout the hour. Houston Public Media serves all of Greater Houston with our mission to educate, inform, and uplift our community. We're your trusted voice for news and culture. We're powered by people like you. When you give, you're making an investment in the future. Support this mission now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or 888-909-0887. Just ahead, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the week as Houston Matters continues here on News 88.7 and on YouTube.
You're the reason this station.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Ties between them were really closely formed.
Some deeper cuts and more talk about talking heads right here real soon. Saturday evening at 7 on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Moody Center for the Arts, presenting Open Machine, a dance performance blending technology, human movement, and digital expression, April 10th and 11th. Registration at moody.rice.edu.
A lot can happen in a week, some of it good, some of it bad, and some of it downright ugly. When faced with intriguing developments in the week's news, we turn to a rotating panel of non-experts to parse the good, the bad, and the ugly of it all. On today's panel, Natalie Arceneaux, the president of Arceneaux International Consulting, Jennifer Hadayia, the executive director of Air Alliance Houston, and Raul Ramos, an associate professor of history at the University of Houston. Natalie, Jennifer, Raul, welcome to Houston Matters. Good morning.
Howdy.
Good morning.
Panel, as we discussed on the show this week in a 12-5 vote on Wednesday, the Houston City Council approved an ordinance intended to cut back on coordination between the Houston Police Department and ICE agents. Councilmember Alejandra Salinas spearheaded the ordinance with support from other council members and the mayor. As our own Dominic Anthony Walsh reported, the ordinance eliminates a requirement that officers wait 30 minutes for federal agents to pick people up from, say, a traffic stop if they have a non-criminal ICE administrative warrant. This will prohibit officers from detaining people or prolonging traffic stops due to those warrants. It'll also require regular reports from the mayor's administration on immigration enforcement. The support of the mayor cost the mayor the endorsement of the Houston Police Officers Union, who opposed the ordinance, along with several other city council members who, among other things, expressed concern that not cooperating with ICE might bring undue attention to Houston and therefore potential crackdowns like we saw in Minnesota earlier this year. Houston City Council passes an ordinance intended to cut back on coordination between HPD and ICE. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Natalie, I'll start with you.
Oh,
golly.
Of course you'd start with me. So, I think there's good aspects and I think there's bad aspects. The first thing is the concern about how it could bring attention. I think that's probably unwarranted concern. They didn't say they were not going to cooperate. They said they were going to reduce the level of coordination that was happening. So that's not the same thing as not cooperating entirely. So that's the first thing. So the other thing is, I think anything that these regulations are federal regulations that have been put in place for immigration control, which I'm all for. I think we certainly need to have a sensible immigration policies and all that great stuff. But I'm also not here for endangering our officers standing on the side of the road waiting for federal agents to show up because someone has a non-criminal warrant. I'm like, who even makes non-criminal warrant out there? Because the longer officers are standing there, the less time they have doing their city job, which is to protect the citizens also from crimes that are actually going on right now and things of that nature. So, is there a way that they might be able to coordinate better, cooperate better? Probably, more than likely, but I also think that takes the federal government evaluating how ICE is being deployed into cities and being used in cities to wrangle, folks in the first place.
Jen.
Full disclosure, my organization was one of many that signed on to a letter in support of this ordinance. So I think you know generally where I stand on it, but you might also wonder why an organization like mine focused on environmental justice would be involved at all. And the answer is quite simple, and it has to do with the word justice. We believe in justice for people who have been subjected to air pollution, to climate impacts, simply because of the way they look, the language they speak, or where they're from. And this ordinance is no different in my mind. It says that the city will not be unnecessarily complicit in making people fear federal detention simply because of what they look like, the language they speak, or where they're from. That they should not fear participation in public life, that they should not fear asking for help from local law enforcement when they need it. So look, I think I know, that I believe ICE deployment is a completely manufactured, politically motivated crisis. The data we've seen coming out of ICE says that the vast majority of people in ICE detention today have absolutely no criminal record whatsoever. As a city that believes in justice principles, and I believe we are that city, I think this is fundamental to who we are as Houstonians. So as a city that believes in justice principles, that values our neighbors who are immigrants, I think this ordinance takes a stand, and I think that's a great thing.
Raul?
I think it's great as well. So that's a good in my book. Look, it was about time. And this has been something that that our community has been demanding. You know, the city councilwoman who brought this up just won a runoff by over 18%. And she's a newcomer, right? But this was at the top of her priorities when she was running. And look, all we have to do is see that Whitmire supports it. You know, he's the, you know, kids get off my lawn guy, right? So if he's supporting it, you know that this is what the community wants. And that's all we can ask for of our city council. The reality is, as everyone's been saying here, you know, the police have a priority in terms of public safety. They're not there for one thing; they're there for all of it. And what the federal government is asking is for this unaccountable rogue police force to come in and dictate what our city is asking for and needs from our public safety servants is ridiculous. And so I think everyone in the city council sees that. The fact that there's going to be pushback, I think we all know that's over. I mean, I think everyone sees this. I mean, you see this happening in Congress right now. So I think that this is a good move, and it just shows just how far we've moved in the wrong direction, I feel, and we need to come back to some sensible policies. I mean, you're asking everybody, teachers, hospital workers, to become immigration agents. You know, we have jobs, we have things to do, and that's not our priority. This is a civil matter, and it should be handled through civil authorities.
Panel, the 39th Annual Houston Art Car Parade is Saturday, along with other festivities this weekend. And as our friend Lisa Gray at the Houston Chronicle reported earlier this month, artists participating received an email reminding those making cars that, quote, art cars are the vehicles for messages, not vocal protests and signs. To preserve the family-friendly, welcoming, joyful spirit of this event, we cannot condone profanity or political messages on vehicles, signs, placards, or among accompanying marchers. The profanity rule was already in place, but Gray reported that some of the art car world reacted pretty strongly to the idea of no political messages on vehicles. The parade normally gives out an award for the car that makes the best political statement, and some asked whether this email meant that category was out this year. Jack Massing, the executive director for the Orange Show Center for Visionary Art, which runs the parade and associated events, said yes, it had been removed. But eventually the organization backed out and restored the category, at least for this year. Then in a subsequent email, Massing said there was some concern HISD teachers were going to use the parade and the presence of an art car that was protesting Mike Miles and the state takeover of the district. They might use that as an opportunity for a larger protest, potentially disturbing the parade's celebratory vibe. Concerns over protests and messages of protests at the art car parade. Is this good, bad, or ugly? Jen, I'll start with you.
Good, bad, ugly. I think it's just plain dumb and terribly miscalculated. I mean, was the parade organizer pressured by Mike Miles? Are they friends with Mike Miles? It's just really confusing. Everything about the Art Car Parade and the Orange Show has always been about freedom of artistic expression. I actually looked up the Art Car Manifesto this morning, written back in the 80s, and it says that art cars are an expression of freedom of the, quote, God-given American right to be yourself on a car.
Which is the most American.
It's the most American.
or the most Houston.
I was going to, yes, one of the most Houston things we could possibly say, too. I've been going to the Art Car Parade for more years than I can count. There's political speech on both sides of the aisle. There are expressions of faith, of food, of fashion, of all the wild, wacky, crazy, creative things that could only spring from the minds of Houston artists. So I think trying to put an arbitrary constraint around the parade this year was very ill-advised, and I think will very likely backfire. I would not be surprised if there are cars tomorrow with the parade organizer's likeness, his name, some reference to this controversy. And I'll let you know. I will be there.
Yeah, careful. All right, Raul.
Sure. This is bad. It's a bad look. Let's put it that way. It's a bad look for the art car parade. Art cars are anarchic. First of all, I think beyond anti-authoritarian, they're just fly your flag, right? This is what it's about. Part of one thing I was thinking was these teachers are seeing the fact that arts programs in schools are being defunded. I mean, there you have it. Our kids' elementary school used to put together an art car and put it into the show. I mean, maybe some of that's still going on, but look, this is something that our community is facing, and it's they're losing they're losing libraries in the schools. They're losing art teachers, music teachers. This has deep implications, and of course, artists are going to respond to that. And of course, it's something art is political, period, and that's the way they're proceeding.
Natalie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's equally bad across all spectrums. While I understand, that the parade authority folks, whatever you want to call them, it's their parade, so they kind of get to decide the rules, understandably. But the notion of something being art, even the profanity rule, I think is stupid. I'm like, it's art. If someone wants to drop a F-bomb on the side of their car, then you need to have the conversation with your kid that there just might be some profanity.
I think we see
right? Look away, kids. Cover your eyes, children. I'm like, that's the whole point of art, is that it is the one of the ultimate expressions of self. And so to say, hey, we love freedom of expression, we love art, we love all of this, and then give people rules and boundaries to that is just the quintessential antithesis of that.
The art car parade has lost a little bit of its edge. I mean, I remember it used to be kind of I'd take my kids and I would be afraid they might get hurt because there was fire.
Where are the urban animals when you need them?
I know.
Okay.
We need a little danger.
Yeah.
We need to bring the danger back to our car
They
parade.
banned fire on art cars a number of years ago.
Yeah,
Did you see
they used to drive
bring
those
the
through our
fire?
neighborhood. Anyways, I feel like we need to bring back the edge in Houston a lot more.
Yeah.
That's Raul Ramos. He's with the University of Houston, where he's an associate professor.
Bringing back the edge, right?
That's right.
I'm the last guy that's going to bring back the edge.
Oh, surely not. And Jennifer Hadayia, the executive director of Air Alliance Houston, and also Natalie Arceneaux, president of Arceneaux International Consulting. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Donate to NPR.
Donate to NPR.
And thank you for listening to Houston Matters, and please do donate to NPR and Houston Public Media, News 88.7. I'm Michael Haggerty here all this hour with Brenda Valdivia. There's a level of consistency you expect from the station, plenty of news and serious conversation, but also some fun, lighter-hearted stuff on a Friday or weekends on this station. We respect that you recognize the value that this station brings to our community, to your life. We're just asking now in our spring membership campaign that you give to support that, help make more of that happen for you and everyone in our community. Here's the number, 888-909-0887 or houstonpublicmedia.org.
I'm Brenda Valdivia, and I'm here joining in. I was so hard not to say anything during GVU. I love it. It's one of my favorite segments of the week because there's so much happening in our city, just as there's so much happening behind the scenes here. A team that follows what's going on across Houston. And when we say Houston, we mean greater Houston, everything from Galveston to Fort Bend to Humboldt to Pearland and beyond. We check information, we ask questions, and we make sure what reaches you holds up because we respect that you see the value in that work. But that takes ongoing support to keep it funded. So give now at houstonpublicmedia.org or by calling us at 888-909-0887.
You tuned in to Houston Public Media today, and it's here for you every time you do. And there's big news, whether it's breaking stories or a hurricane aftermath or the smaller everyday stuff from the city council meetings to the school board meetings to everything in between. It's there for you on your drive to and from work. It's there in your home. You count on this station every single day.
That's right. Listeners like you make it happen. Every segment you hear on Houston Matters is because of you. Your support keeps the station here with you. Every reporter we bring in, every expert we bring in, that matters to you to hear accurate information. That matters to us. So please give now at houstonpublicmedia.org or call 888-909-0887.
Houston Public Media's mission is simple: serve our community with trusted news, education, and culture. And today, that mission reaches you on air, online, on your phone, wherever you stream. It's all free because of listener support. So when you give, you keep this public service available to 7.8 million people across Greater Houston. Make your gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call us 888-909-0887. Just ahead, celebrating Brazilian culture in the city as Houston Matters continues on News 88.7 and on YouTube. We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
The Carole King Story. You've got a friend that will have you singing along with this all-new production. On stage at the Hobby Center May 19th through 31st. Tickets available at tuts.org.
Houston Public Media presents the Malt Story Slam, April 14th at Lambert Hall. Doors open 7 p.m. The theme of the night is sus, stories about deception or suspicion. Tickets, houstonpublicmedia.org/themoth.
Houston is known for its diversity, a city where cultures from around the world come together to shape the region's identity. And in recent years, one community bringing its own vibrant traditions, music, and flavors to the city is Houston's growing Brazilian population. Through cultural events, community organizations, and celebrations like the Brazilian Food and Music Festival this Saturday, Brazilian Houstonians are creating spaces to connect, share traditions, and introduce others to their culture. Houston Matters producer Laura Walker recently explored how Brazilian culture is finding a home here in the city with the founder of the Brazilian Cultural Institute, Mauricio Campos, by learning how a professional skater from Brazil creates a hub for Brazilian culture in the Bayou City.
I went to Houston in 1990, right? At a time, I was a professional skateboarder here in Brazil, okay? And then we had a president that just got to office. He froze all bank accounts. He froze everything. So business just went crazy. You know, at a time, I had sponsors and I also had a small skateboard business. The market at that time for the skateboard was very fragile, right? So it collapsed. And then we decided, let's travel. Let's go to US to skate. And, you know, if you think skateboarding, you should go to California. But it was me and my brother. We decided to go to Houston because we see on the north side a really great skate park. And we chose to go to Houston because we did not know anybody. We're like, if we're going to go all the way to the US, we better learn English. We better understand the culture. If we go to California, we're going to stick with the Brazilian culture and you miss a lot, right? So we went to Houston. And for 7 years, I didn't come back to Brazil. So I was really hungry for the culture. And a friend of mine took me to a capoeira class. I'd been exposed to capoeira, right? Growing up, I had friends that did, but my life was skateboarding at the time. And I just fell in love, you know, because it reflects our culture. You have the music, you have the dance, We like a little fighting too. It's the community, it's the Afro-Brazilian culture, having the roots of what the Africans brought to us, which makes the Brazilian culture. There is no Brazilian culture without African culture, period. And well, I dove in, and I start training. By that time, I had an import and export business working with the skateboard industry. So I kept training and training. And then I joined a school here in Brazil and decided to open a nonprofit to fund more things, right? So I started the Brazilian Culture Institute, which was, at that time, it was called Brazilian Arts Foundation. That was in 2001 we incorporated the organization. And then from then on, it was hands-on working and pushing the Brazilian culture. The community in Houston was really small at that time. It's great because Houston is a great city. And I saw the city developing. When I arrived, downtown was a ghost town. Nothing there. It was right after the 80s downfall of the economy. And man, seeing that the city become what it is today is really amazing.
So you said at the time when you came, the Brazilian community was very small. How's it now?
It's much bigger. It's much bigger and keeps growing. I think, not only Houston, but Texas is becoming a great place because of the quality of life, the cost of living in Houston, what you get for your money buying a house is just incredible. The oil industry brings a lot of people to Houston, right? Because of that connection with Brazil. But the community keeps growing. You have a lot more artists, a lot more people, a lot more things dealing with the Brazilian culture happening. Just amazing. It's great.
What are some of the, challenges that either you yourself or you've seen fellow Brazilians maybe have here in Houston?
I think in Houston, a lot of people that come are professionals already. So it's a different situation too on that end. In Houston, there's a lot of work. It's people able to do. We have a lot of doctors that come to do the residency in Houston. I think it's more made out of professionals that come. So some other situations doesn't apply to us there in Houston. Of course, the city is so spread out. So one of the things that we always experience is not a particular area that you're going to see a lot of things Brazilian. The community is all over the place. You see a lot of people in Woodlands, Sugarland, so it's deep on the west side, right? There's a lot of people on the west side in Houston by that way and West Time and going on that area. So it's harder to find things. Sometimes people call and ask, oh, where can I go to meet a lot of Brazilian people? Well, it's not a specific area, unless it's an event like it's the festival, it's happening. I think that it makes hard for the community to be always together.
What role does the Brazilian Cultural Institute play in supporting the community?
2006, we were able to secure a culture center. Girl, we went to town with that culture center. Woo! We did so many events. We did the Brazilian Festival. We had 4 events a month, a cooking class, a movie night that was completely free, the samba nights, which was a night that our own band play music, teach people how to dance. And we also had a free classes once a month in collaboration with Midtown Park. So it was always live. We did a lot of things, and we were able to really serve the community with culture, with a place to belong, with a place to come. We moved from one culture center to the next, which is warehouse, also in the Heights. So we're centrally located. It was great to be centralized, because Heights is a historical area for Houston, and it made it easy for people come from all different areas because we're centralized, right? Now, we were able to build a library on their warehouse. We had a monthly socials for dance. So people could come, not only the Brazilian community, but people interested in the Brazilian culture. We could feed that void of being around the music, the dance, the culinary, And that was mainly what we did. We also done a lot of after-school programs. We've been partially funded through the Harris County Department of Education since 2007, with the Houston Arts Alliance support us too since 2005. So that was our main product to provide the community, and then we're lucky to have in Houston a consulate that served 7 different states. So a lot of things sometimes people look for us for information. Man, I need to renew my passport. Some people didn't know. So we provide information on a daily basis for people that moved to Houston, didn't know what to find. We were able to make that bridge and guide. Oh, where's a restaurant? Okay, go over here. Go over there. Here you can find this. And nowadays you see a lot of groups on Facebook of people. Like, it's a group on Facebook, Brasileiros in Houston. So it's the Brazilians in Houston. So you can find a lot of stuff there,
The Brazilian Food and Music Festival is coming up. What is it like?
I've been to the event several years ago. It's been a long time, but it's all Brazilians, so it's food, it's art, the festivals. As we done it too, you support the artists that work with the art, painters, sculpture, people that do, clothing is supported by the events. So people can find that out. They can experience dances, performance, capoeira, samba. So you're going to get a little bit of Brazil right in Houston, and expected to enjoy, a family environment where you can go with your kids and being able to enjoy all this together.
Mauricio Campos, the founder of Houston's Brazilian Cultural Institute. He spoke with Houston Matters producer Laura Walker. The Brazilian Food and Music Festival is Saturday from noon to 8 p.m. at Powder Keg, Houston. Just a few minutes left in Houston Matters today. You get all kinds of information from this show and this station, learning how the Brazilian community and culture is expanding here, checking in on the Artemis II mission as we have all week, arts and culture, breaking news, personal stories. That's why you listen. And that's your reason to give right now in support of this station at 888-909-0887 or HoustonPublicMedia.org. I'm Michael Haggerty, along with Brenda Valdivia.
Hi, good morning. Yes, I am Brenda Valdivia here in these final moments in the last 4 minutes of Houston Matters to ask you to make your gift. We're already hearing from Bel Air, from Spring, from Sugarland, and from LaPorte. We recognize the area of Greater Houston as everything from Galveston all the way to Humble and Pearland and Katy and beyond. And I'm telling you those cities because it shows the bond between Houston Public Media listeners across the state. That bond is based on trusted news and information you rely on. Join us from your city now. Give before the news summary in 6 minutes. Give now at HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
There's this bond between other listeners to public media. It's based on the fact that you hear something different here. Something about us is different. Independent news is a big part of what's different about this, and it's difficult to find that right now. The only way this can continue with the depth and the length of stories and the lack of big, long commercial breaks that you hear on other stations is with your support. So sometimes, the news can feel like too much. Here, it doesn't. We break it down. We help you understand with facts and calm conversation. You feel prepared instead of overwhelmed.
When weather storms hit and you're not sure if your Wi-Fi has access, the radio's there. Giving to Houston Public Media is as simple as turning your radio on, and we can do it online in about a minute, or we can call and talk to a real expert to talk about the situation that's happening in Houston and beyond. It's quick and it's easy, and it matters to give right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
There are lots of reasons we just talked about to give, so now is the time for you to do that. Give any amount you're able to do, whatever it is, one time or maybe even a monthly contribution. It all adds up and helps us continue to serve you with Houston Matters and all the great programs you hear on this station. Again, it's 888-909-0887 or houstonpublicmedia.org.
Thanks.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you.